I kind of have an idea how my skaters are going to do before they go out, because I usually know them really well and I know how they practice. And so it's not as stressful, I think, as people think it is. It's more about you help them do what they can do, and then they make a mark for however they are, and then you help them get to the next stage. So it's just a long continual process. It's not they are out there all by themselves, and kind of when you let them go, you kind of feel, well, there you go, and you hope that they're strong enough inside and that they're prepared enough physically, and if they're not, then you help them prepare mentally for the next time. Ooh, the relationship between a coach and the judges, it's always individual. I mean, you can't really make a blanket thing. I mean, there are some judges that don't want to talk. There's some judges that want to talk really a lot and feel that they want to make the skater. So it's just, I guess you would call it political, but it's just like in any situation, you try to do the best for your skater by gleaning the information from them that you think would be helpful. And you get a lot of helpful and a lot of unhelpful, and then you kind of sift through it. And I always looked at myself as a filter for Brian to take out the things that would help him and use those, and the ones that were not, to keep those to myself. Very different not having to train for figures. And I still don't even know the results of how that will be. It's still unwinding not having figures in the sport. And there's some good and there's some bad. I mean, the bad is maybe that the women tend to be younger, and a lot of them win before they go through a body change. And then everything changes for them. So they're not the skater that they won with when they want to make a career out of it. I think that there's a lot less edginess and control of the blade in skating now, which is beautiful. That's what makes Brian beautiful on the ice, is his edge control. But the amount of time he spent on figures didn't justify the result. And I don't know how to get that same beautiful edge quality with half the figures or a quarter of the figure training. I mean, so part of skating has lost something and skating has gained something. Where do I see the sport in 5 years? Wow. I don't even know how this new system is going to work out. Change is inevitable in the sport, and I don't know if this is a good change or a bad change. There's a couple things going on. There's the system, which the skaters have, which is making them do more complicated spins and footwork, which is really good. And then there's the lack of transparency in the judging that's also going on, which makes it kind of a mystery to everyone, like, what do these marks mean? Who gave it to me, and what is it? Because you really don't know who judged you. I think sometimes they have 14 people and they choose out of that, so it's a random choice of the judges. And then even if you did know the judges, if you knew who the 7 were, their individual marks and their countries are camouflaged or hidden, so that you can't really tell what comes from where. So it's really hard to assess what a particular judge thinks about skating, and that makes it difficult to, like, okay, well, where do I go from here? So I got 150 points. I guess they get some sort of checklist. I don't know how that is. It doesn't matter to me if it's 6.0 or 10.0, but I think that it was a very fan-friendly system, where I think being an armchair supporter of the sport, sitting in your living room at home and seeing someone fall, make a mistake, and then saying, well, they can't possibly get a 6.0 or a 10, that is part of the sport that is been a very successful part of it, and I think that they're going to lose a lot of that, and I'm not sure how that will affect it, but I hate to see that gone. I think the Olympics for me is the same as anything. You know, in other words, it's a greater pressure for the skater, and there's more expected of you, but you've done so many competitions. I mean, all my life feels like I was a coach, and so I just did the same at that competition that I did at every competition. But having Yvonne and Brian both was actually wonderful. It was wonderful for both of them. And the story of Yvonne is a great story. She was gonna quit skating, and she did. She quit skating, and because I had sort of told her I didn't think that she should continue in the U.S. because I could see the writing on the wall that they were going to put new and younger people in there, and that her placements would probably go down. So she quit for a while. And then she called me up, and her parents had wanted her to skate for Spain for a long time, and she'd resisted it. And she said, I think I'm going to skate for Spain. She said, I've been thinking about it. How is Brian going to be able to prepare for this by himself? And so she basically skated an extra year so that she could be there to support Brian. And because at that time I was coaching the two of them and one other person, really, and they were great support for each other. And and then when he won, oh my gosh, he was hysterical. She cared more about his skating in the Olympics than her own. I definitely think it would be great if speed skating and figure skating were split and not under the same ISU banner. I think that figure skating supports speed skating financially at this point, and that doesn't really matter to me so much as the fact that you have people in one sport decreeing rules and interpretations of rules and judging for a sport that they really don't know that much about. I think it would be better for both sports to have knowledgeable people in charge of them to separate them. I think that the WSF probably was a catalyst for change in the sport. There was a lot of fallout, and I don't know that much about it, but they had a lot of ideas, I think, that they wanted to incorporate in this new organization and split off, and they failed. But I think that's pretty typical of organizations that want to change. There'll be a failure, but something good came out of it. I think there were a lot of changes in the sport because of it. People had to take a look at it and go, whoa, there's a lot of feeling here. What is this based on? And they made some changes. Not everything, but some. Brian had choreographers since the time he was 12. I didn't choreograph his program. And I was more like, well, what am I? Was the technical person and the figure person, and I was also the manager of his career, like who's going to sharpen the blades and what kind of skates is he going to use and who's going to choreograph his program. And Sandra was just a fantastic, great choreographer. And I remember I went to her like maybe 6 months ahead and asked her if she would do it. I actually think Dick Button is the one that suggested her as a choreographer for Brian. And so I kind of met with her and talked to her, and for her it was kind of a big deal because she's Canadian. And so then she agreed to do it, and it was a wonderful thing for Brian. And I guess typically when Brian would go to someone, I let him go to different coaches all through his career for weeks, 2 weeks, choreographers, figure teachers, whatever. And so he went alone so that he could form a relationship with her and I wouldn't interfere with it. And then I remember the first time when I went back to watch, I think they had been there about a week, I was just blown away by the work that she had done with him. And then I was like, whoa, this is great, you know, you just do what you want, you know. So that was great. When I watch skating and see good skaters, it's in my mind forever. And like I'll know a person's body movement almost more than their name. I can remember Nicole Bobek when I first saw her at 8. I can remember Michelle Kwan when I saw her at 11. I can remember how they skated, what they were wearing. It's just amazing. And those aren't performances. So I think when I see good skating, it's indelibly in my brain. I remember seeing Oksana for the first time. I mean, I could just, so it's not really a performance as such, it's more for me a skater.